it was interesting to me to read that in the last year, for the first time in half a century, no new mall has opened up in America. And that there's this big mall being built in the Meadowlands in New Jersey called Xanadu. Strange name, but Xanadu.
And do you roller skate through it?
Well, I expected Olivia Newton-John to be there for the ribbon cutting, but it's supposed to be, you know, the biggest, newest hybrid of mall. And yet, of their 200 retail spaces, they only have 9 tenants so far. And are malls behind the curve? Is their moment over? As a place where we go to buy our fashion?
Well, I mean, I think that's a really good question for a retail real estate expert, which I'm not.
Yeah.
But I think for a very long time, those certainly brand names have become more and more focused on creating their, or I should say controlling their image.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that in a mall. A lot of them want the freestanding stores. They want to be able to fully control their space. So I don't know. I think it's something that's definitely shifting, but I don't know.
It was interesting. The Wharton School did a study, and it was 18 to 24-year-olds found the malls boring, that the shopping was boring, and 25 to 40-year-olds liked the shopping, but they didn't like the restaurants. So I don't know. It's a revolution of some sort. But I'm not being fair. I should really talk to you about fashion, and not retail business. And I was very interested in what you wrote about the Paris shows in particular, but you went to the New York, Milan, and Paris shows. And you didn't seem to be doing cartwheels. I mean, you liked Lanvin the best, right? But I particularly loved your comment about the shoes. that you thought these can't be women designers designing the shoes. And I do look at the shoes, and I do wonder, what are shoes going to ratchet back at some point and become something people can, because even the models can't wear them, and when the models can't wear them, hasn't it gone too far?
Shoes have become sky high. The heels have become
They look like
sky high.
armaments sometimes.
Apparently, according to shoe manufacturers, women are buying these shoes. Perhaps none of them are in this room.
They're not walking.
Perhaps
They're being driven everywhere.
We don't know any of them.
They're being carried.
But they are apparently buying these shoes.
I
and
see
they
them.
love
I
these
see them
heel
in
heights.
photographs wearing them, but I haven't seen anybody walking in them. And you've been to the runway shows, and you've seen models struggling to.
The Prada show was one of the most death-defying and horrifying shows I've ever seen, because these models were wearing shoes that had a very thick platform, and then they had probably a 6-inch heel, which made them probably about a 4-inch heel, considering the platform on the front. But just to make things a little bit trickier, each model was wearing the equivalent of like a little half sock inside the shoe,
Right.
which was a slingback, which essentially meant that it was impossible for them to get any traction between their foot and this 6-inch platform slingback, which they had to wear on an uneven concrete floor.
Right. And look straight ahead.
And look straight ahead and look divine. I've never seen so many young women have an absolutely petrified look on their face. You could see it in their body language. They were so tense, thinking, please God, just let me
get through this,
that it detracted from the entire show. You could not look at the clothes. All you could think of was, oh, please just don't let her fall. And many of them just fell over. And when they fell, they literally looked like their ankle was going to snap.
And do the designers comment on this factor?
Designed this.
Yes, do the designers take note of that sort of thing, or is that just part of fashion?
You know, it's at moments like that when I really think that sort of group therapy would be the answer, because I don't know. They see it. and they realize that models are falling off their runway. They realize that people
That doesn't help sell the
are
clothes,
completely
does it?
distracted
Right.
because they're worried that the model's broken her
Right.
ankle. But for
Or
them,
laughing like we are.
you know, it's part of their vision.
Yeah.
It's part of this creative ideal that they have in their head of precisely how everything is going to look. And to be somewhat fair, I mean, part of it is that often they don't see the models in the full look with the shoes
Yeah.
until, you know, maybe a very brief run through before the show. So they often don't realize that the shoes are
The jeopardy
impossible,
that
or the sample shoes are so rickety that
Whose show
they're
was
gonna
it that had
pop.
the bangs down in front of their faces too? Because that would be a good combination with the shoes. No, I love it. I love the fashion. I was taken looking, I don't know whose show this was, because I'm always looking at particularly the Paris shows and thinking, what if any of that translates to Washington? And usually not much, but the trend toward short shorts, toward very little shorts, is that not one of the looks for the spring?
No.
That won't happen.
That
We don't have to worry about
it's
that.
not really going to go much farther than the runway, and that also.
I mean, it basically looks like underpants.
Well, I also think that if we see that, we're going to see that in contemporary markets, which
Yeah.
are for teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not thinking we're going to see it in the halls of Congress. It was just, but were the shows in October relevant for now, or was that again things that were in the pipeline?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to be more interested to see what you see in, it'll be February, right, for
Yeah.
the
For fall.
fall?
Well, I think the shows in February will tell us a lot more about how designers are thinking and how they're essentially feeling about their business. What I was surprised with actually in September and October was that even though these collections had been conceived before the bottom fell out of the economy, the shows were not. And designers still could have made the decision to pull back on the kinds of things that they decided to throw on the runway. Because the collections that we see on the runway are obviously the most aggressively
Outspoken, really. Yeah.
exactly. But there's a whole other showroom collection, and there are pre-collections that are really all about very wearable, very commercial, very saleable clothes. And the reality is that most retailers have done about 95%, if not more, of their buying before they actually turn up at a show. So there were a lot more low-key clothes that they could have chosen to put on the runway instead. I think in many ways the argument against that is, okay, if, you know, every time we pick up a newspaper there's more gloom and doom pronouncements about the state of the economy, the state of the world, do we really need to see more gloom and doom, boring clothes on a runway? Is that really the direction that we want to go? So I think at that point designers sort of embrace the idea that part of their job is to bring joy. And if you can't bring joy, then, you know, you're not doing your job.